be helping save a child's life. You'll become a part of a group of very special people. St. Jude Hospitals, Partners in Hope. During this hour, you have seen how for over 30 years, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital has been a major battlefield in the war against childhood cancer. You've seen the courage of children willing to endure any kind of pain just for a chance to live. I'm asking you to help us give.
Good evening. I am the Rock Hero, and I am a metaphor for America. I don't know what that means, but I like the sound of it, so I'll say it again. I am a metaphor for America. I think the reason I like it is because a metaphor for America. I'm a metaphor for America. I sound like Goofy in an existential mode after he had just gotten fucked up on hash at Disney World. Well, I am a metaphor for America, for I too have come from a far-off place to seek my fortunes in an unknown land. When my home planet exploded, I was the only survivor. And as I lay in the vast empty reaches of outer space, in the safety of my single-passenger rocket ship, surrounded by fragments of what was once my home planet, I remember being filled with a deep regret. And I remember the thought that ran through my mind as fragments of my exploded home planet went caroming and careening off of the hull of my spacecraft. I should have used more dynamite and set a longer fuse. At this time, I would like to talk about what it means to be an American. You know, I've been all over this great country. I've been from Fiddlefuck, Arkansas, to West Hell, Missouri. I've been from Diddy, South Carolina, to poking the eye with a sharp stick, West Virginia. I've been from Chumley, Ohio, to Dodge, Tennessee. And in the course of my wanderings, I have learned this crucial fact about Americans, that everything west of Yonkers and everything east of Riverside, California is basically smoldering landfills, toxic waste, and frontier justice. Where filth-encrusted, lice-infested hicks do nothing but twiddle their non-opposable thumbs and watch the grain elevator go up and down all the livelong day. The United States is one land, but it is many lands, because we live in a nation of immigrants. An American partakes of the habits and customs of many cultures. 1491 will forever go down in history. 1491, the last good year for the Indian. In 1492 came Columbus, and in the 1500s the Spanish colonized the New World. Some have criticized the Spanish for being rapacious and cruel. Others have said in their defense that the Spanish conquistadors were siesta-loving, paella-eating, sombrero-wearing, red wine-drinking hotheads who had wicked tempers from sangria hangovers. In other words, they were alcoholics and therefore not responsible for their actions. In the 1600s, the British came to colonize North America. Many saw the British as snobbish, inbred, bulldog-loving, Henry VIII worshipping drunks with horsey teeth who just wanted to eat crumpets, drink tea, play cricket, carry umbrellas, wear pit helmets, and read Kipling. And yet, these very same much maligned British eventually fought for and won independence from the mother country. And in the United States today, cultural ties to Britain still remain. The indomitable British will always fight injustice until the last American is dead. That's why there will always be a Britain as long as there's a Fort Knox. In the mid-1620s, the Dutch bought Manhattan Island from the Indians for $24 worth of trinkets. Those same trinkets today would be worth, about $24. The Dutch were known as shrewd bargainers who gave us the expressions Dutch courage and Dutch uncle. The Dutch were also known as tulip sniffing, butter eating, Heineken gulping, clog wearing fatsos whose eyes were perpetually crossed from staring at windmills and whose fingers were shriveled from sticking them in dikes when they weren't off ice skating or smoking hash in one of their low dives. In the 1700s, the French began their trade with the Indians. The Indians preferred the French for their fair-minded bartering practices. Nonetheless, behind their backs, the Indians referred to the French as the wine-slurping, breeze-stinking, snail-eating, tongue-kissing, syphilis-infested, pornography-reading, adulterous writers of incomprehensible philosophy. By the 1740s, the Scotch began settling here in large numbers. The Dour Scotch were known by their neighbors as dress-wearing, penny-pinching, oatmeal-gulping, bagpipe-tooting skinflints. Nevertheless, to their everlasting credit, the Scotch invented whiskey, golf, and selfishness. Three things without which no 20th century American could do business. Shortly thereafter came the Germans. They were, of course, immediately characterized as beer-bloated, sausage-eating, sauerkraut-slurping, chocolate-chomping right-wing nitwits. And yet we cannot overlook their important contributions to American culture. Kindergarten, Rathskellers, and give me a week and I might think of another one. Following the potato famine of the 1840s came the Irish, America's first universally despised minority, and not to be America's last universally despised minority. Many native-born Americans of the day couldn't understand the Irish, who, to their unenlightened minds, seemed to be little more than bog-trotting, Guinness-swilling, clay-pipe-smoking, brick-throwing, shillelagh-wielding, shamrock-worshipping, Blarney Stone-kissing, bomb-hurling, brogue-talking, fiddle-playing, mandolin-strumming, penny-whistle-tootling, Morris-dancing, rock-gut-gulping, ale-slurping, ether-drinking, leprechaun-hallucinating, incomprehensible poetry-writing, evil-tempered, yet grotesquely sentimental dipsomaniacs. In the 1870s, there came a substantial influx of Scandinavians, who many people saw as miserable, big-boned ex-Vikings with crooked teeth who sat in their squalid hovels eating raw, salted salmon and reading Hamlet by the light of well-fat lamps and feeling sorry for themselves. By the 1890s, many Southern and Eastern Europeans came to the United States, notably the Italians. Many people criticized the Italians as crooked cigar-smoking, olive oil slurping, dagger-wielding, mafia-fearing, pope-worshipping, greasy, garlicky, sex-crazed, emotional fascists, born dictators, whose one ambition in life was to bark incomprehensible orders at their betters. The Italians were known for resenting their fathers, adoring their mothers, driving their sons insane, and turning their daughters into sluts with big hair. This influx from Southern Europe also included the Greeks,
Sluts with big hair!
who were derided as bouzouki playing, ouzo drinking, baklava eating, olive munching, stuffed grape leaves slurping, pistachio crunching, sailor cap wearing, black-haired tin-horn chiselers who reeked of sardines. From Eastern Europe came the Poles, known to many as duck's blood drinking, vodka swilling, clumsy, thick-headed, stubborn, oafish lumps. The Hungarians, from whom we get the term honky, were stigmatized as goulash eating, paprika reeking, suicidal whiners. The Turks were the most despised minority of the early 20th century, and even today the Turks are known as curd-killing, heroin-smoking, fez-wearing, pastry-gobbling, and pathologically cruel. Which brings us back to where we started, with the Spanish conquistadors, who, if only they had realized the depth of their problem with alcohol, and if only the Pope had developed a 12-step program, would have been living in happy harmony with the Indians whom they eventually enslaved. In the 1920s, strict immigration laws were passed. Basically, the American people decided, we're in favor of immigration of people like us, but we're against mass migration of foreigners like them. And so, the gate was closed. It wasn't until the 1960s that immigration laws were liberalized. An influx of many exotic people from strange lands came. What Americans now indulgently refer to as weirdos. It was also in the 1960s that the Americans began to address the plight of the original inhabitants of this country, the American Indian. It was in the 1960s that Americans said to themselves, we've broken every treaty we've made with these proud people. And what's the result? Indians are poor. They sleep on old army blankets. Indians got disease from old army blankets. Their filthy teepees smell like gopher shit and old army blankets. They're forced to eat dogs and Palomino ponies and old army blankets. They weren't even born here. They migrated across the Bering Strait. Give back those army blankets, you filthy redskins! This presentation has been brought to you by the Eskimos, makers of fine blubber products for your home, including blubber, blubber clear, cruelty-free blubber, I can't believe it's not blubber, fat-free blubber, multi-grain blubber, free-range blubber, country time blubber, peppermint blubber, my little blubber, pickup blubber, Mighty Morphin Power blubber, Teenage Mutant Ninja blubber, and new Nazi-free blubber.
Blubber light.
Blubber light, too obvious, man. I am the wrong hero. I hope you have found this presentation amusing. If you have not found this presentation amusing, I hope at the very least you have found it informative. If you have found this presentation neither amusing nor informative, then I would like to thank you very much for not hurting me or my friends. No. It's the inventions of no mic stand. Sounds like, I don't know. Sounds like a Chinese protest. No mic stand! No mic stand! Tiananmen Square! The late Michael O'Donoghue once said, it's easy to make them laugh. What's really difficult is to make them think. Now, I'm not sure who this them was that he was referring to. I think perhaps it was the amorphous mass of individuals that he, as an entertainer, was called upon to. What does an entertainer do anyway? Entertain, I guess. And that's why, Greg, as we were discussing earlier, it's so difficult to get people to laugh at the cerebral stuff. They're not at a comedy show to really, ponder the deep mysteries of life. More like the shallow mysteries of life. It's like, I tried to park in a parking space and there was a trash can there and I moved it and somebody put the trash can on top of my car and now I'm really mad. I'm telling you, when I catch that son of a bitch, I'm gonna. Yeah, they wouldn't. It's a good thing it doesn't snow down south, because they wouldn't stand for that shit down there. I'm telling you, man. They'd be out with those rifles, The next sound you would hear after you pulled a stunt like that would be, what are you doing on my property? So, it's just a very good thing, because Southerners are they're the nicest people in the world, in many respects. They're very hospitable, and for a good reason. The same reason that Arabs are hospitable, because if you've taken the trouble to wander down to their shithole, then they might as well treat you nice, because they don't get many visitors down there, So, but when you get them mad, that's when you gotta watch out. There's an old saying, beware the anger of a patient man. And it's just so true. Because when Southerners get mad, all of a sudden it's sort of like, they lose about 3 inches. Their thoraxes start bunching up, and they start squeezing out their words like they're going to take a shit. What are you doing? When I get this thing out of here, I'm going to get you. Yeah, that's what the whole deliverance thing is all about, The stranger played banjo with the retard, and he played better. We're going to get him. That kind of thing. It's like, there is a real consensus mentality down south, and it may have something to do with the fact that, well, they don't like to talk about this much, but there's a lot of, ex-prisoners that settled down south. Georgia was a penal colony like Australia, and I think prisoners are they're not known for having long fuses. They're known for having pretty short fuses, It's like, the porridge is burned. So like, riot, because, when you're stuck in some grim old shithole, the smallest thing can set you off. And, so I don't know, that might have something to do with it. Also, there used to be slaves down there, and I guess that's why people like Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms have a lifetime worth of congressional experience, because not only do they, have their workers for life, but they have their congressmen for life too. So they were having to constantly be on their guard. Everything was happy, smiley on the surface, but then, sort of like keep one eye open when you're asleep, because you never know when them slaves might decide to kill you. And man, I'll tell you. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about the South for, except maybe it's because I kind of wish I was there right now. That would be really nice, because then I could just say something like, what about that football? I get a laugh that way, easy laugh. The Republicans they're talking about abolishing the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. If they do that, what are Southerners going to do in their spare time? That's all it is down there, is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. This is an example of the cerebral stuff that doesn't get the laugh. You know what I'm saying? It's, and comics get on their high horse about it too. They say, well, these people obviously, their minds are in the gutter. It's difficult to entertain them with my incredibly advanced thinking. And it's like, hey, lighten up, buddy, I mean, they can read Tea Cutter, the New Republic. Republican if they wanted that shit. But all they want, they just want you to like relate to them, They get enough preaching from their boss and their wives and stuff. They don't need that. They just need someone to get down and friendly with. There's like, yeah, my old hound dog. One time we had a stranger down here. My old hound dog was licking his balls, and the stranger said, "Gee, I wish I could do that." And I said to the stranger, "Get to know him first." So, that's the kind of stuff they like. You can't blame them, really. I mean, yeah, Michael O'Donoghue, poor guy. I mean, I never much paid attention to his career when he was actually going, but now that he's dead, I can quote him like he's an old pal of mine. And he said something like, he really resented the fact that in Western tradition and in Greek drama they had that mask, comedy and tragedy, comedy on one side, tragedy on the other. And he said something like, what that fails to point out is that there is absolutely no fucking difference between the two of them. And Mark Twain sort of hit the nail on the head when he said that the hidden source of comedy is tragedy. So it's, I don't know, it's pretty tough. It's difficult to come to any definition of what comedy is. Some people say that comedy is the unexpected. Some people say that comedy is when your favorite comic comes in and brings two people. And some people say that comedy is truth. This is my father-in-law to be. We got into a discussion about comedy, and he says, well, I think what comedy really is the difference between the truth and not telling the truth. The truth and what's false. Well, that's not a bad definition, because everybody knows that this is just an act, I'm not really like this in my everyday identity. Hi, how are you? Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, way to go! Poland Spring. All right, hey, I used to think that was Poison Spring when I was about 5 years old. And polar water was poison water. And the nun would send me over to get some polar water because I told her I was thirsty. She's trying to poison me! And I thought the choir was actually a chore. And I thought, I'm not going up there, I ain't going to do no chores! That kind of thing. It's funny. And in fact, Jonathan here was saying that a lot of the best ideas come from sort of this willful dyslexia that you get. Like you read something and you think it's one thing when it's actually another. Like there was this record label, I'm not incredibly sure of what the original name was. It's something like, I don't know, Cypress Mountain. But I misread it as Crime Mountain. What a concept! Crime Mountain. I'm going down to go Crime Mountain. I'm going to commit crimes all day and night. I'm just inarticulate with absolute delight over my own cleverness, and it's you can just explore this thing forever and ever. Crime Mountain, where it would be against the law to do anything that wasn't a crime, which is kind of weird when you think paradoxical, you might say, because if nothing's a crime, then everything's a crime, I guess. And so, how could you not commit a crime when it was your duty to commit a crime? If you were a criminal and you were in an environment where it was against the law not to commit crimes, you'd become a model citizen if you were any respectable kind of criminal. Because, the whole criminal mentality is to subvert the law, get around the law, bend the law, shape the law to your own advantage, sort of like the Republicans, actually. But so just imagine a world in which it's against the law not to commit crimes, and you go, you're driving 55 in a 185-mile-an-hour school zone, and you weren't even going in reverse. It's like you're not under arrest. That's just it. If it were against the law not to commit crimes, then not getting arrested would be the biggest crime of all. It'd be like, how much jail time have you had? 25 years. All right. How much jail time have you had? 15 years. All right. How much jail time have you had? 3 days. Oh, and what did you get it for? Something real bad, I hope. I stole 10,000 pounds of beef assholes. It's like, whoa! Library books would be routinely returned 15 years late. There would be no "do not remove this" tag on mattresses. And all the other sort of like obvious things that immediately surface for this concept. Wow, I'm improvising like mad. In fact, in this crime mountain scenario, comedians would be penalized for making people laugh. And it would be really mad, you know, mad, bad, and dangerous to know up on Crime Mountain. Gee, but who can we get to be the headliner at the Crime Mountain Comedy Club? I mean, who's the unfunniest famous comedian you know besides me? Bill Cosby? Like, well, oh, come on, give Bill Cosby a break. If it weren't for Bill Cosby, where would Richard Pryor be? Well, where is he now? I mean, Christ, poor guy. Shit. Gilbert Gottfried is kind of grating, you know, but kids like him. I read something really great in Zippy today. Zippy's trying to be normal, and he's talking to some guy about the Family Circus, that adorable cartoon. And the black guy doesn't get the point of the Family Circus. He says, "What planet are these people from?" And Zippy says, "Be quiet, you fool. In France, Chucky is worshipped as a god." And you know, the thing is, on Crime Mountain, the Family Circus would be at the top of every single comic section. Just once in the Family Circus, I would like to see the following. "Mama, Grandpa's ghost told me to throw Jesus down the toilet." The anti-Family Circus, you know, it's sort of like, I don't know what it would be, the Manson Family Circus, you know, Jeffy, "Acid is groovy," Dolly, "Kill the pigs," Barfy, woof. Geez, you know, every once in a while you get these outstanding opportunities and you kick yourself because you don't take advantage of them. For me, it's like books, really. I've been selling off my library, so I've been very reluctant to acquire any more books. The best short stories are Bring Larger, $1. You idiot! Why didn't you buy that? Bring Larger, a god, you know. But the one that really gets my goat, the one if I had only spent $5, I could have had a compilation of the earliest Family Circus comic strips. And I didn't buy it. What an idiot! Oh! I used to do yoga, so I can't kick myself. There are other things I can do, but they're not mentionable in a family context. That's more for the Taoist crowd. You know, Chairman Mao was a Taoist. He was sort of like Chairman Tao. You know, and if he had been alive to establish the Chinese stock market, you think it would have been called the Mao Jones Industrials? Maybe. Who knows? But I guess he read somewhere in the Tao Te Ching or one of those commentaries that if you make love to 10,000 virgins, you will be immortal. Hey man, that is a great agenda for a world leader to have. I'm sorry to shock you, but it's true. It's true. Well, first of all, in this country, where would you find 10,000 virgins? But in China, it might be a little easier. You know, 1 billion people, 10,000. Number one? Oh, no, you're not a virgin.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's okay. You know, purity of essence. You gotta keep that. You gotta save yourself. I'm saving myself. Well, nobody wants you, so it's kind of an exercise in futility now, isn't it? No, not you, Phil. Not you. Not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about these damn teenage kids. Yeah, they're always saying, take out the trash. No, I'm saving myself. Save yourself. So someone's gonna have to save you from me. You know. So 10,000 virgins, 1 billion people. How does that shape up anyway? 100 million to 1,000, 100 to 10 million, 10 to 1 million. So one out of every 10,000 Chinese people is a virgin, or 100,000 Chinese people is a virgin. And I guess Chairman Mao could do it. But, geez, what an agenda for the guy to have. He probably went to every province looking for virgins. Virgins, bring out your virgins! You know, it's sort of like just pile on the wagon there, and I'll come to see them later. Well, in China, he could have had his pick, you know. I don't like this virgin. You know. This is the nice one. She has black hair, and the other one has no hair. So I'm gonna go with the one with the black hair. Actually, Chairman Mao was kind of omnisexual. He used to squeeze his masseuse's bums. And you know, this is all coming out now. This doctor of 22 years came out with an expose of the sex life of Chairman Mao. Yeah, wow. Just what the world was waiting for, man. I've been waiting with bated breath. I've been on my haunches waiting for the Surgeon General, and I think I've said enough. I think perhaps I've even said too much. As a matter of fact, I've said so much that I don't have to say anything at all for the rest of the show if I choose not to. But, if only instead of watching Popeye cartoons, I had watched Bartleby cartoons. You know, Bartleby, the scrivener, Herman Melville. That was his big motto. Oh, never heard of it. Melville, American, déclassé. I only read British authors like Anthony Hope, the author of The Prisoner of Zenda. Has anybody actually read this thing, The Prisoner of Zenda? You look like you might have read it. No? Oh, being coy, being coy. Here's The Prisoner of Zenda. Hey, I look just like the king of Ruritania. Hey, they kidnapped the king. I'll take his place. I love his princess to be. What am I going to do? I can let the king die because he's hostage, or I can make love to his princess and pass as the king. I know. I'll get into a sword fight. First I'll jump into a smelly old clothes, then I'll get into a big sword fight with the black king, and then I'll kill him, or someone else will, and then I'll tell the princess goodbye. Here's your king, folks. See you later. I'm going back to England. And every year I'll send the princess one perfect red rose. The end. So now you can save yourself the 15 hours it would take to slog through The Prisoner of Zenda, because now you know what it's about. So before I go, any other classics regurgitated? This is a format that I've been working on and would like to establish in some sort of continual fashion. So, come on, a classic of Western literature. Anything at all.
Stephen King's Insomnia.
That's not a classic. 10 million chimps were put to work writing Shakespeare and they came up with Stephen King, you know? Sorry. That's me. Oh, you're such a great guy. I love The Jungle. It's one of my favorite books. It's going to come out in a Disney feature. You know, the Jungle Book movie, and it would be, yeah, Disney doing The Jungle now. There's a high concept for you. It's like, my name is Yorgis. I'm Yorgis Rakis. I am an illiterate Lithuanian peasant. I've come to Chicago to work in the stockyards. I might even be able to buy my own home. Forget the home, forget the wife. My little boy was eaten up by rats. There's more. Gonna leave this jungle, become a hobo. Forget I ever had those stinking brats. Back to Chicago, I'm now a socialist. Chicago will be ours, Chicago will be ours, Chicago will be ours. That's just the opening song. I mean, the cartoon stuff that comes later. Hi, my name is Teddy Roosevelt. I heartily endorse The Jungle by Upton Sinclair and Walt Disney. Hi, I'm Upton Sinclair. I went for their minds and instead I got their stomachs, but I'm kidding. So anyway, you know, I'm on such a high now, I think this is the best time for me to bring up our first guest, Mr. Greg Bogus. Greg Bogus, come on up here. Greg Bogus. Greg Bogus. Greg, more. Greg Bogus, more. Francis DiMenno. More. Lots more. Big, standing O. Stop that clapping, I got a headache. Well, it's funny, but when a comedian gets up there and he really does a good set, then the MC is totally intimidated. I will not smoke on stage because I don't want to influence America's children, you know. So, America's adults, that's another thing. They're always talking about impressionable children. We must be careful not to do anything that would influence impressionable children. I think the real problem in this country is the impressionable adults. They're the ones that vote and stuff like that, and maybe they're the ones we should start worrying about a little bit, like death penalty, Republican, I'm going to vote Republican. You know, get those welfare chiselers off of food stamps. What? Half of them are children? Hell with them. Children don't eat much. Here, we'll teach them to smoke. That'll cut their appetite. All right. You know, fewer food stamps, more. Oh, food stamps. That's right. We're in West Virginia now. We're replacing our food stamps with feud stamps. Yeah, it's a feud. All right. You know, you can't use food stamps to buy bullets. That's against the Constitution. These are feud stamps. I'm going to buy a
okay. Seems as though Western Pennsylvania, they grew a lot of corn and stuff, and it was pretty remote, and they couldn't get it to market, so they made whiskey, and the government wanted to tax it. This is the recap portion of the show, and they didn't want them to tax it, so they had the Whiskey Rebellion. That's great, man. If I'm ever in a rebellion, I want it to be called the Whiskey Rebellion, you know? I was like, all right. That would be their slogan. What's your political platform of this rebellion? That would be so cool. I'd love to. But anyway, so all those folks that didn't like the idea that Washington came and put them down, they all moved to Kentucky. And they made real whiskey there. Now there's Western Pennsylvania fancy damn stuff. No, sir. Hogs fell over dead after sniffing the whiskey. Oh, my old setter fell over at 15 paces when he smelled that corn. You know, it's like, it gives a new meaning to corn. Corn, Kellogg's corn flakes in the morning. If I had my way, I'd start every day with Kellogg's corn. Yeah, I'll start every day with corn. So I was in Louisville, and that's where they have the world's biggest sanitarium to treat addicts, drug addicts, you know. I used to know this stuff right off the top. Lexington, I guess it's called. You know, that's where they had the best jazz band in the world at Lexington Sanatorium. I was in Louisville, and I was in a music store, and I saw this really nice mandolin, and there was nobody there. And I thought, shoo-wee, this here is a $300 mandolin. But then the thought passed, because in Louisville, everybody is incredibly honest. And when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But it got me to thinking. They always talk about how hillbillies are illiterate, and, you know, they like to feud, but they never talk about how honest they are. Those stupid, low-down, stinking, filthy, honest hillbillies. How can they be so stupid? Low-down, one-eyed, tobacco juice dribbling, honest hillbillies. I'll tell you. See, they ought to be on Crime Mountain. You know, do you not swear to tell lies, all lies, and nothing but lies? I do not so swear. So help me, Lucifer. And so, I think I'm coming up with a song now. I gotta get up on Crime Mountain. That's all I got in it. She don't cook and she don't clean. She don't do nothing all day long. Just sits and stares at that 19-inch color television screen. We don't have kids. We don't pay taxes. We don't do a god darn thing at all. Life is sweet up on Crime Mountain. If only I had a place to put my horse in its stall. I know it's kind of lame, but you know, it's improv. What do you want? Improv is an excuse to be lame. Let's put it that way, okay? Don't laugh, Greg. Someday you'll be up there, and someday all these comics here will be up there, and everything is like down the toilet, down the toilet, down the toilet. I think I'll do a little improv now. It's sort of like, you know, the hillbillies say, think I'm going to shoot my neighbor now. Think I'm going to do a little improv. Instead of throwing these carefully crafted little time bombs into the audience, I'll just get a big steaming pile of time bombs and just chuck them in there willy-nilly, yeah. All right, I don't care who it is, it's going to hit everybody. Oh, improv. You know, it's tough to do improv because what do you talk about? Huh? I mean, if you talk about stuff that you've already thought of, it's not improv. It's more like working out your new material on stage before you've even had a chance to write it down. And that kind of blows, man. You know? But I'll try a little improv. his head fist, you know. Did you know that Disney employees live in subterranean tunnels and are totally disgruntled? They are. They write all this sort of graffiti, you know, like, get that fucking rat out of my sight and things like that. You know, do they have a vermin problem at Disney? I wonder. Now, the sight of a giant 6-foot rat would be enough to scare any vermin within a 500-mile radius. Clean the hell out of there. But there's this infomercial and the family. You know how they do with these infomercials is they show how it's fun for the whole family. Now, you know, if something is so mediocre as to be fun for the whole family, then any thinking person would never consider it fun of any kind whatsoever. There's something for everybody, from the littlest spread up to the doddering-most grandfather. Hey, whiskey at Disney World. And so here's Dad's fantasy: to get up on stage and do comedy. And we fade into a dissolve. He's up there. You know, there's about maybe 500 people, including Ed McMahon, chuckling off in the corner. And he tells the lamest jokes imaginable. You know, like something on the order of hair today, gone tomorrow. And the chance of a lifetime. This is his big shot. And he gets up there and goes, you know, says stuff like, why do they call them hurricanes? Well, if they didn't, I guess they'd call them hurricanes. Yeah, it's like Johnny Most. You know, I only do this for Boston crowds because Johnny Most is about, you know, he's really a Boston. He's a localized, New Hampshire too, localized phenomenon. North of here, you know, everybody knows who he is. South of here, forget it. Johnny Most, who the hell is that? I'll tell you who Johnny Most was, Pilgrim. The late Johnny Most was the Paganini of phlegm. He was the Jimi Hendrix of congestion, you know? And I gotta work up a little phlegm here. Luckily, I smoked a pack of Luckies before the show. Gotta work up a little phlegm to do my prize-winning Johnny Most on drugs impression. Johnny Most never used illegal drugs, and I don't want to make that implication. You know, he just smoked a carton of Luckies a day and drank a quart of whiskey every day of his life. Those aren't illegal drugs. But if you've done the illegal ones, I want to be something like hey, diddle diddle, the cat, the fiddle, the cat, the cow jumped over the moon, the cat fiddles and diddles down the court. Here comes Humpty Dumpty, he's sitting on the wall. Humpty Dumpty, I went, oh! Humpty Dumpty, I went, oh! Oh! This is terrible! Here comes Hamilton, Hamilton fiddles and diddles down the court. Oh, this is terrible! Hamilton can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Oh! Oh! Here comes Caesar, Seminoles are overburning. Here comes Caesar, here comes Nero, Nero, he fiddles and diddles down the court. The Seminoles are overburning! They're burning! Oh! 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 This is terrible! A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K,
Works for me.
All right. You know, there are many people who say they're Christians and they live like Christians on the Sabbath day, but from Monday morning to the Friday, they hate their neighbors all along the way. Oh, this is terrible. You don't love God, you don't love your neighbor. Here comes Hamilton. Hamilton steals the ball. Oh, Hamilton steals the ball. He doesn't love his neighbor. He doesn't love his neighbor. Ah! Here comes Frankenstein. Frankenstein steals the ball from Lucifer. Oh, Lucifer's the devil. Oh, the devil you say. Oh, 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 oh. The other reason I only do this in Boston is I live right next door and I can sleep for about 8 hours afterwards. But no time to sleep. Come on, cheer up, crybabies. Because it's time to bring up our next guest, Mr. Jonathan Eder. Jonathan Eder and Sarah Lay. L-E-I-G-H? L-A-Y. That's a we go to California. LA, why? No water. It belongs to Mexico. Why? 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 You want to get up? Yeah, you? Want to get up? You? Well, forget it. You came too late. I don't like you anymore. You're not my friend. Yes, well, a very unexpected pleasure and a most unexpected treat in all those other incomprehensible adjectives that we spew out like gobbledygook or speed freaks. The magnificent, the maleficent, the extraordinary, the uncommon, the magnificent. Did I already say that? Yes, I did. Incipient Alzheimer's. Mr. Phil Berliner.
Thank you, Francis.
And now, the end is near, and so we face the final curtain. You can't, I'm not a quitter of that uncertain. I get my way. That was my prize-winning impression of Sid Vicious. And as good a way as any to end this segment of Comedy on the Edge.
How about Johnny Most singing Frank?
Oh God, how about Dean Martin doing Johnny Most? How a chick steals the ball. A little wine drinker, have a chick. Ah, this is incredible. Havlicek steals the ball. I love Havlicek. I love you all. But most of all, I love Havlicek because he stole the ball. I love Havlicek. Can't get enough of that Havlicek. Can't get enough of that Havlicek because Havlicek stole the ball. Hey. It wasn't a fancy dress ball, it wasn't even a baseball, it was a good old basketball, and Havlicek stole the ball. Hey, Havlicek stole the ball. Whew. Well, yes, okay, that's about Johnny Most singing, Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling. Do not forsake me, oh my darling. I miss her. Wedding day. If you forsake me, oh my darling, I'll be a coward. A coward. I can't be a coward. I'll be a coward in my grave.
So what is in H? And we are ready. Hang on. You got to plug in all the way? That's what you're under the cord? 2. Roll. Okay, you don't have to hold. Okay. Take it off, put it channel 9. Yes. Go back to the 3rd. Well, that channel's not coming up on anything yet. Channel 9. Number 9. There you go. You know what number 9 is?
You need more treble.
Hang on. Number 9 is, this sounds like 1979 here. So, it's just like Death of a Comedian, woof. The perfect sound. Number 9 backwards is Let Me On, Young Man. It's not Turn Me On, Dead Man. It's Let Me On, Young Man. I had one of those AR turntables in high school. I used to play Revolution 9 backwards. It did sound awful like an automobile accident backwards. And again, it sounded like one forwards too. Yes, you know, if we had symbols in our heads when we were performing, you just like smack the side of the head and get the rim shot. That'd be cool. Or even a steel plate would do. Da-da-da-da-da. You know, well, I know some people on Visual Lake who aren't professional speakers. say, you know, a lot. In fact, Vicky Lake herself said, you know, a lot.
I do know.
And my father used to say, don't say you know, it's a given. But thanks, guys, for wonderful advice. Thanks, Bill Carnegie. Now I can win friends and influence people. I wonder if the other mics would be any better. Hello? Copy the other one. Now you know how Sid Vicious got his start. I don't know, Mike. This,
Francis, that's my idea. I know there's something wrong. I'm trying to take care of the problem.
I don't mind it per se. It makes me
My
sound
other
like...
option is to turn it off and forget about it. Deal with that problem. What do you want me to do?
Michael, please, I'm not trying to pressure you into doing anything that you're not comfortable with. Oh, I promise.
The sound is better when you're not right on top of the mic.
Okay, like this?
A little closer.
A little closer.
Yeah, you hear amplification, but without that
Without that persistent muffled. Okay. Well, welcome to Comedy on the Edge. This is part of my dream to have the show take place in the audience with nobody on stage. And nobody in the audience either, for that matter. Well, except one person who is worth 10 in my esteem.
Thank you.
If for no other reason. And I was thinking about the Billy Joel song Piano Man. I was discussing it with the bartender. Hey, what's the bartender's name, Mike? Is that Tim?
I don't know who the bartender is.
The guy with the blonde hair.
That'd be Tim.
Oh, okay, good.
In front
Yeah.
and Bob in the back.
Tim in the front, Bob in the back. Liquor in the front, poker in the rear. Yes, sir. Anyway, well, Tim's a nice guy. Really nice. I just want to say that right now while I still have the chance to be heard by the multitude. And we were discussing.
Now you're getting the witches to harass me.
Great. Hey, turn that down, huh? What the fuck? Driving the customers out. Now you're driving the accusation of murder for 20 years out. I was thinking about the song Piano Man, and one of the lyrics which goes, play me a song, you're the piano man. It's like, start me a war, you're Hitler. What kind of way is that to talk to somebody? Come on, raise some dead, you're the Christ. Eat my shit, you're the garbage man. This is a little bitter. A little bitter. Okay, it's closer to the natural tones of my voice. The plumbing basses and the fruity trebles come out in their fullest flavor when the microphone has been so amply fixed and conditioned by our premier sound person, Mike Higgins.
What's good just got muffled?
Got muffled it. Oh well. I can set ransom demands with this microphone now. Put the money in a brown paper bag if you ever want to see Santa Claus again. And yeah, Christmas Eve. Wow. It's there I go with again. Well, I was also pondering the difference between being, in your 20s and 30s and having a roommate, and being in your 30s and 40s and either shacking up or being married to somebody. But there I go again, hit me every time I say I'll replace it with my new catchphrase, at least. At least. See, every comedian needs a catchphrase. A snappy little, thing that they're known for. I'm getting sidetracked, but that's okay. That's the whole purpose of Comedy on the Edge, actually. I was actually watching Geraldo. That's my girlfriend. It has nothing to do with me. I would never watch it if it weren't for her. But she had a big crush on him in the 70s. So she likes to watch him every now and then, just for nostalgia's sake. And there was this guy they were discussing the OJ case, predictably enough. And they had all these slimy lawyers. One of them was fat. One of them was kind of smaller, but also fat. They looked like little cockroaches, really. Like big, bulky guys with tiny heads. And one of them, of course, was saying, well, of course, DNA evidence is highly unreliable. And for every one person who's been exonerated by DNA evidence, 100 have been thrown in jail. And the other guy was going, he was a
guy is not a lawyer, but he looked just like a lawyer with a beard. And he was going, actually, that's absurd. You know, forensic science may not be in its most advanced stages, and perhaps 10 years down the road it will be more foolproof than it is now. But nonetheless, DNA evidence is virtually irrefutable, and there's only one chance in 10 million and all this stuff. And they had this old drunk, or former drunken guy who had been thrown into jail for sexual molestation and then exonerated by DNA evidence. And he kept saying, talking over the lawyer who was trying to talk over him, all I know is, God bless DNA. If it weren't for DNA, I'd be serving 5 to 50. God bless DNA. And then he started crying because his mother was dead. Just wonderful. And I had to talk a little bit about my mother. We got a commercial break coming up. Please come right back. Tell me more about this after the break. And everything depends on after the break. You know, it'd be something like, I hold in my hand the anti-life equation. Well, that's very interesting, but we'll be right back with that after the break. I have the cure for all known human disease. Well, that's very interesting, but we'll come back right after the break. You know, I've only a gun in your head, and it's loaded, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger right now. That's very interesting, but we'll come back right after the break. And Rush Limbaugh.
It's better now, right?
Yes, it's much better. Much
Am I
closer.
interrupting your act?
I don't mind at this stage, Michael.
Really?
Because I am so, like, you know,
Frustrated?
light on my feet that I can
Angry?
equally, you know, I can just easily
Jump right
fast.
back.
Uh-oh, it's fading in and out.
No, I did that.
You did that.
I want to know
You're
where.
worse than Rush Limbaugh. He does the same thing. It's like, I could have created $36 million of tax revenue if it weren't for government restrictions and taxation on my salary, which doesn't make me able to build these gigantic shopping complexes in Westchester County. And he was making all these outlandish claims. I created 40 jobs in the service sector. These are good paying jobs. They pay $9, $10 an hour. Sure they do, pal. Sure they, that's right. The boys with the white hat, you know, the boys with the butterfly nets are here. Try on your nice new jacket with the arms that knit behind your back. But he was just ranting on and on about, you know, the government restrictions. Well, these welfare chiselers, they pay their children, leave it pay their children, leave it pay their children.
I'm back.
And they made it as hard to get on welfare as they did to get a building permit. We wouldn't have any welfare. We'd have 15 million skyscrapers. You know, this.
Actually, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'd run a government like that.
I know you've been hurt by affirmative action policies. Well, you know, the place where you're living now, of course, they're constantly trying to throw you out because you don't fit their specifications.
I know, but now I'm legal.
But I actually heard Rush Limbaugh say, well, that's very good, but we'll get right back to you after the break. And then some 11-year-old kid called in. Hi, Rush. You know, it's like, start out young. Yes, my friend. You know, and he's like, the kid doesn't know what he's talking about. He's saying, well, I think it's okay to have school prayer. I think it's okay to have school uniforms. And then Rush Limbaugh says, well, what if somebody didn't want to wear the uniform? And the kid says, well, I guess it would be up to the individual. And Rush says, well, what's the point of having uniforms when it's up to the individual as to whether they can wear the uniform or not? Sort of like, then he holds himself back from like really laying into the kid. Because, you know, after all, it's just an 11-year-old kid, right? Now, if he were 13, he'd be old enough to smoke pot and go out with girls, and Rush would really lay into him because these are the things that the frustrated Rush can't really do with the kind of vigor that he once was able to. Oh yeah, Rush Limbaugh.
I did sound for his nephew's band once.
What was his nephew's band called? Soviet Ingratitude?
The Bob Limbaugh band.
Oh no! Really? The John Wayne Bobbitt band, the Tonya Harding band, how about the Daddy's Money band?
His band was pretty good.
Hey, yeah, they did Rock Around the Clock, and they had some funny lyrics about how, you know, President Clinton snorted cocaine. Yeah, they were really cool.
They're actually a R&B oldies type band with the original material. And they made fun of the guy's uncle, and he looked like him too.
Oh, well, with those 3 strikes, how can you possibly lose, you know? It's like Danny Bonaduce band, you know, just anything.
Todd Bridges band.
That's right, the Tattoo band, you know? The Blood Alcohol .40 band. The
Wrong Hero band.
The Wrong Hero, yeah, right. Hero. Well, the thing about Rush Limbaugh, you know how the guy at Ran Sun Records said, if I could find a white man that could sing like a colored man, I'd make $1 million. Well, somebody looked at Rush Limbaugh and said something like, if I could find a 40-year-old man who thought like a 70-year-old retiree from World War II, I could make $1 million. Because that's all Rush is, really. He's a young man with the thinking, the arteriosclerotic intellectual prowess of an old man. He was actually caught out. He didn't actually watch the news the night before he was on the air on the 23rd of December. So he didn't know about Pete Wilson saying that it might be nice to have school prayer in schools after all. He actually admitted to not knowing something. And then at the same breath, he started talking about Newt Gingrich and that $4 million book contract, totally ignoring the real issue, which is the guy who offered him this contract is somebody who is in trouble with the government, is basically bribing the House Speaker with a $4 million offer to like get off his back. Now he said, well, Newt didn't call him. He called Newt. Like that makes it any different, you know? Newt didn't actively solicit this bribe. The person trying to bribe was soliciting Newt, so it's okay, you know? Yeah, I know. Right, and he says that women have to wear skirts if they want to be on his television show in the audience. Yeah, they also have to be white, obese, and over 40 if they want to be in his audience.
Who do you know is like that?
Gee, I'm getting there. You know, I'll be 38 in a week, and, you know, I put on 50 pounds in the last year, but, you know, hey, that's what happens when you stop smoking dope and drinking, you know? It's just, must put things in mouth, must put. Yeah, I got some Asti Spumante for my girlfriend last night. Actually, she paid for it. But that's okay, because I bought the Christmas tree. We figured the guy out. No, not good. What kind of tape? Is it, if it's classical music? Oh, a joke. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll call my new show. It's a joke show. The joke show. Hey kids, let's put on a joke show. Let's have we'll do the jokes with puppets and you know, it'll be a puppet theater type of thing. Now sort of, oh yeah, I bought a Christmas tree for my girlfriend. We dickered him down from 20 bucks to 15. I felt like a loss, but since I was paying for it, hey, what the hell? Okay, here you go, 15 bucks. Sayonara, sucker. Because like 30 years ago, that same tree would have cost $35. I mean, it's amazing how great science is and how great economics is. Okay, so the minimum wage is the lowest in real dollars, and it's been since like, 1965, but at least butter is no longer $2.12 an ounce. Now it's only a pound. Now it's only like $1.15 a pound. So and there are some people who insist there's no such thing as progress. Anyway, I got my girlfriend a bottle of Asti Spumante at this place called Rocks. You know, it's a good working class liquor store, and you know it is because they've got 50 different types of domestic beers and 8 types of wine. And you can see where they put they jacked up the price of the champagne and the Asti Spumante for New Year's Eve. You know, they're not in business for their health. You know, like Corbel was $4.99, now $14.99. You know, act now, because on New Year's Eve it's going to be $25.99. And on New Year's Day, it'll be $4.99. And this is a bit of advice for everybody. It's going to come far too late to do any practical good, but maybe you can remember it for next year. Better to buy the best Asti Spumante you can afford rather than the cheapest champagne. The best Asti Spumante is like incalculably better than the worst champagne. Now, I'm not a drinking man anymore, but I do like to see other folks have fun. So remember this.
Oh, buy me a bottle. What do you got this on?
Oh, it's a bubbly wine. It's rather sweet. A little sweeter than champagne, which is kind of dry.
Carbonated sweet white wine.
It's not artificially carbonated, is it? Is it?
How do they get that bubbles in the bottle? I don't know. That's not old.
Yeah, right. God, that reminds me.
Does it come in cookie dough?
Come in cookie dough flavor? No, it comes in cranberry cookie dough flavor for the New England crowd. Yeah, you know, the New Englanders are so gullible. Just stick some cranberry shit in there and they'll buy it. It's just phenomenal. It's like, well, it's our regional fruit. What a world, what a world. And now to get to the main point, which is the idiocy of rock and roll clubs. No, I'm not going to get to that just yet, but I will shortly. What I want to get to is the difference between having a roommate and shacking up. It's like,
all the difference in the world, because you can live in utter squalor. You can have newspapers from the Lincoln assassination on the floor, and nobody will give a shit, because it's guys, and guys just don't care. Like, their idea of a decorating touch? A keg of beer next to the open trough where you're pissed, you know, in the bathroom. I mean, that's, wow, man, you got a really great setup there. You know, get your 20-inch color television in the kitchen so you can have it on at all times of the day and night while you're cooking. You know, while you're cooking, you can listen to David Letterman and whatnot. When you have arguments with your roommates, though, it's different from when you have arguments with your girlfriend, because your roommates will almost never threaten to throw you out, but your girlfriend will routinely do so. It's like, you know, every time you have this minor disagreement with her, well, why don't you just get out? You know, it's like, oh my God. Well, okay, dear, I'll go out and I'll come back in a couple of hours after you've cooled off, and, you know, after you've had a chance to look at pictures of cute babies and get your blood pressure down. It's cool. It's really amazing about women because no matter how intellectual they are, unless like they're really raging Camille Pagnas, you can always like just slip a picture of a baby in front of them and they're like, oh, baby. And you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how far down the phylogenetic scale you go. Puppy, little goldfish. It stops with insects, though, especially ones with exoskeletons, like cockroaches and beetles. They'll never fall for this. It's a cockroach! No, it's just a harmless beetle. No, they'll never fall for that. Whereas, you know, it's not really a man's apartment unless there's a couple of cockroaches around, you know?
Hey, what to do with the audience?
I don't know. I think they were taken by the rapture. Hal Lindsey, call your office.
Remember that?
I sure do. I read the book. Hell was there, hey, you know. So it's just making the adjustment from having a roommate to shacking up with a dame is just like too much. It's a major source of nervous tension. You don't have to really hide anything from your roommate, really. You know, I was arrested for counterfeiting. Well, have a beer. But your girlfriend, on the other hand, well, my old girlfriend from college, who I really love instead of you, called me up on the phone and we went out to dinner. You can't tell her that. Oh, God, are you kidding? It'll take her 3 months just to...
In an honest, open relationship, you probably should.
You're right. Well, okay, here's the thing. Will she ever find out? Yes? Tell her right away. No? Don't even mention it. Really? There's no sense in mentioning it if she'll never find out, so...
Well, you don't need to be devious if it's...
No, not devious.
True love.
Not devious. Not devious. Just, you want to spare her unnecessary trauma. Especially if she's highly excitable
Oh,
to begin
he's a
with.
great protector.
That's exactly right, Michael. Whereas with your roommates, it's like, you fucking suck, man. You know, you couldn't say that to your girlfriend. You just can't.
I know.
It's just not right. Nor can you fart in the kitchen. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. Or in the living room. Do you have to do that in here? Or especially in the bedroom? Unless you've known each other for 20 years. And even then, it's a no-no. No? I mean, that's the thing with women. A place for everything and everything in its place. The bathroom is for farting. The kitchen is for eating. And the television is for watching, you know, the TV room is for watching television. The sewing room is where I put all my junk, including the sewing machine, which I'll never use. And you can't go in there because it's the sewing room and it's for sewing. It's like, put bookcases in the kitchen, even though it's the biggest room in the house. No, that's a no-no. You know, with a girlfriend. But I'm having problems with my roommate because he is in fact kind of like a son and a pain in the ass too. I mean, a teenage son. I don't need this shit. At least not for the next 15 years. And I don't need to argue because I said so. Because I'm the tenant and you are subletting from me, so I set the rent. That's why you have to pay the rent. Hopefully 3 days before it's actually due so I can deposit it in the bank so I don't write a bounce check to pay the rent because of your irresponsibility. But you can't say that to your girlfriend.
You sound like that guy Duke now.
I know, exactly. Put your hat on straight, pull up your pants, and get a job, damn it! It's like, but I'm only 5 years old, sir. It's like, these people, the Republicans, they proceed from a position of privilege, and they presume to tell the less fortunate what to do.
Whereas the Democrats simply proceed from a position of privilege and presume to tell the more fortunate what to do. That's all the difference in the world. Yes, well, this is a great way to end 500 appearances at the Middle East.
How about the Pope? What's up with the Pope these days?
I don't know, but I think they're preparing for his successor because now they're marketing a line called Pope Light.
Pope Light?
Slimmer than the fat pontiffs Catholics worship. You got your own Pope now, baby. You've come a long, long way. Well, I think they're going to go for an Italian guy next time. The Polish thing, it was a good experiment, but it broke up like, 1900 years of continuity. How many popes have there been? At least 70, probably 100.
One might say that it was a move towards the end of the
Armageddon, Gog and Magog.
well, the succession of events there. That was one of the first steps towards Eastern European. You know what I mean? Like that thing.
Yeah, right. That thing. The fall of the Berlin Wall. There was somebody on Jeopardy last night who didn't know that the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. They're not making them any brighter these days, that's for sure.
Well, see, it didn't exactly fall.
Right, it just got knocked down. Not quite the same thing as fall. Dismantled.
More correct word.
Oh, yes, if we wanted to be precise and perfectly correct. Well, I guess now it's time to start talking about the idiocy of rock and roll clubs. How can anybody hope to accomplish anything whatsoever which is like cognitive and verbal in a rock and roll club? The whole purpose of rock and roll is to bludgeon your sensibilities into a state of stupefaction. In retrospect, having a comedy show in a rock and roll club was probably not the most inspired idea. But I started out with high hopes. I was very ideologically optimistic and what do they call that when you're like,
Stupid.
well, that too, when you're young, idealistic. I was thinking, why must there be this great gulf, this great divide between comedians on the one hand and musicians on the other? Wouldn't it be nice if they could get together and you could have comedy and music shows and music and comedy shows? Of course, it's like mixing oil and water. It's like putting...
It's especially hard when you have an overbearing, self-centered, oddly costumed gentleman on stage who won't get off.
Well, I'd be perfectly willing to get off if there were plenty of other people to take my place, but since there aren't, I guess I just gotta do it all myself.
Oh, right now?
Michael, I'm trying to save the world here.
Yeah, it's not working.
Albert Schweitzer,
Or
no fucking
you
stage
saw rock shows and it was time for the band to play and we had to wait for you to shut up.
Oh,
Years ago.
the
I'm not talking contemporary events here.
well, we've got 3 good songs and 15 shitty ones, and yet he's eating up our stage time.
Well, that's exactly it.
Well, you think they would like let me talk for 20 minutes, do their 3 good songs, and get the hell out? Wrong. Of course not. Well, it doesn't matter now. That's why I stopped doing the rock and roll shows, because the two don't mix. It's like putting Custer as the head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I mean, it's inimical. Comedy is inimical to music. Remember this. I mean, you can mix them.
How do you spell that word?
I-N-I-M-I-C-A-L, of course. I was in a spelling bee.
I might get a dictionary for Christmas. I'll look that up.
Inimical. Well, it means basically totally opposed. I did word welcome in high school. That's how I know all these $3 words. I'm going to get to the main portion of the show very soon. I'm going to wrap up my comments now. Working in the Middle East has been swell. There's no health care, but at least there's free parking.
I show up occasionally.
Yeah?
I'm here now, right?
They said there's no health care. What did you think I
Oh,
said?
I said there's no help here.
Oh, no.
Enunciate, you fool!
Okay, I'll shot with a bunch of rocks in my mouth at the ocean, and that'll get me up to my fighting trim in the enunciation. It's because my throat is getting dry, because I drank coffee instead of orange juice.
You need dental work. You have too many spaces between your teeth.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny, because I wrote a song about that.
Oh, why don't you sing it for us now?
Okay. I'd like to live forever. I want the girls to think I'm clever. So let us sing this all together. I can do what I want to do. I can do what I want to do. I can
between my teeth are great big spaces. I can do what I want to do. I can do what I want to do. Because I'm living in alcoholic psychosis. When the big boats get in the water, there's going to be a great big slaughter. If you want to fuck with me, don't bother. Because I'm living in alcoholic psychosis. I'm living in alcoholic psychosis. I'm living in alcoholic psychosis.
See, that song was stolen by somebody.
No, I gave it to Jeffrey Gagnon of the Well Babies. He wrote the tune, and I wrote the lyrics. Although,
I actually like that.
I know, we've written quite a few other songs too. We wrote The Evening Train Go Past Your Town and more, and there was one called The Customer Is Always Right. And he just came out with a song called Be Kind, which is going to be on all the charts, and for which I also wrote the lyrics. But I'm not going to sing those.
You think he's going to come back and pay the $30 he owes you?
He doesn't owe me any money.
He'll pay $30.
Oh, he owes you $30? Oh, that's nothing. You should amortize it over 5 years. Isn't not having him
Been
around?
about 5 years.
Well, isn't not having him around to harass you but worth $30, isn't it?
Yes, kind of is. Kind of is.
Well, anyway, I like working in the Middle East. There's no health care, but there's free parking. And that sort of leads me to my final point, which is, why should we have universal health care? I think what would be better is health care for cars. Because, people put off going to the doctor, the dentist, because their cars break down. But if we had governmental health care for cars, then that would get rid of unscrupulous people who repair your car. And it would, if Clinton said that, he would get every single Southerner vote for him instead of the 9% who planned to do so in 1996. Health care for cars. And if Clinton doesn't do it, I'll make it part of the platform of my new...
Tailor-made rejuvenation.
That's right. My new plaid shirt party will have that as its principal plank. Health care for cars, nationalized salad bars. Snappy, goes down easy. So.
That's the other story. Here's an audience member.
Okay, how you doing? You look swell. That's one of the permissible things to say to people you don't know. You look swell. You ever have people just walk up to you and say, hey, I like that sweater. What is their motive for doing this? And here's another thing. Why don't they make airplanes out of the same stuff they make black boxes out of? Because in every airplane crash, the black box is still there, but the airplane is crumpled up to shit. Why don't they make the black box out of aluminum and make the airplane out of the black box stuff? That's what I want to know. Anyway, this ends this segment of Comedy on the Edge, and there will be more, so stay tuned.
How much will it take?
This is The Wrong Hero, and I'd like to talk about my favorite soap opera, which is called All My Children, in which you will be seeing scenes from in the subsequent minutes to come. Well, the problem with soap operas in general, and All My Children in particular, is that they violate virtually every single rule of technique in drama. For example, action and emotion. Action, when it does come, is sporadic and seems to be doled out in driblets of a few seconds apiece in the overall tapestry of the hours, nay, years-long unfolding subplots which drive the soap opera. As for emotion, if anything, emotion is dribbled out in gigantic carloads, and virtually every scene, be it a casual hello or a shattering revelation, is treated with the same level of emotional involvement, which is to say, extremely high, perpetually set on 11. Now, as for the subjects and plots, since a soap opera has many characters, the subject is ever-shifting and the plot is incredibly complicated, which requires that you watch 4 out of 5 episodes every week in order to follow the story whatsoever. In other words, the soap opera is sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in that if you watch it and you follow it, then you have to continue watching it in order to continue to follow it. And if you fail to watch it, then you will no longer be able to follow it. Now, as for the clearness through use of wise selection in the plot, this does not exist in soap operas. And as for proportioning the material, the number and length of the acts of the playlet which constitutes the soap opera, the commercials, of course, mean that every soap opera has to be divided up into discrete scenes. But since the commercials are fixed and the soap opera plot is one gigantic piece, this makes it very difficult to proportion the acts, because every 7 minutes or so it'll be interrupted by a commercial break of approximately 2 minutes featuring 4 discrete subjects. Now, this also makes the soap opera suffer insofar as clearness, emphasis, and movement is concerned. As for characterization, this is the strong suit of the soap opera. Unfortunately, since dialogue drives characterization, and the dialogue is usually extremely weak, it creates a contradictory effect. People saying cardboard things and yet having very strong and definable characters. Well, this has been The Wrong Hero. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation of All My Children and my picking it apart. Now we resume the show.
Our role is
Go. It's a go. Hey, who's this fella with the dark glasses? Who's that man with the goatee? Give him a beer. Hell, sell him a beer. I'm generous. Well, this is a milestone, an epoch. Yes, we're commemorating the 20 billion anniversary of the Big Bang. And there's the Big Bang now, a little static to give me some accompaniment there. Yes, you know, back in the old days, they don't make Big Bangs like they used to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, time was, you could buy a slave for $1,000. Now it costs $30,000. And, you know, you don't even have any control over him after he leaves work for the day. I'll just tell you, the old days was the good days. You know, cholera, influenza, sure, but I mean, balance that off with paternalistic corporations and, you know, semi-feudalism in a 20th century mode. That's right, feudalism with rocket sleds. That's what we have now, and it's really wonderful, and I love it. And, you know, whoa, it sounds like a dog wanting to be let out, you know, in the morning when you wake up. It's like, he scratches on your door. Well, a funny thing really did happen to me on the way over here, honest to God. Well, not exactly on the way over here, but going down to Providence last night. What should happen, but as I was towing along in the high-speed lane, but that the hood to my car should fly up, smashing the windshield, and strangely enough, my thoughts at the moment were, oh well, guess I won't have time to go downtown and get gas at the Merit station. So, you know, I had to pull over, get a greasy rope. Ropes are always greasy. The rope you have in your trunk, it's always going to be a greasy rope. Never going to be a really nice rope, you know, so that the people don't point and stare. Well, the windshield's smashed, but the rope's pretty nice. Like the rope, you know. I can really do things with that rope. You know, I'm getting an awful lot of hissing from this monitor here. I guess it's a sort of prelude to the hissing from the crowd, which will shortly ensue. Yeah, what are you, a bunch of snakes? Listen here. A snake sheds its skin once every 7 years. Too bad you don't.
Hissing now?
Well, it's still hissing, and, well, just about the same. I mean, you know, a hiss is just a hiss. A smile is just a smile. Oh, that's much better. That's more like it. No, this is worse, and you know what? I don't really need... This is better. I don't need monitors, because I know what eyes sound like.
You know, I have to make this thing work.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. In other words, reggae musicians and their 500 guests are more important than me and my 6 guests.
Your pals being back in school later this evening.
Oh, great. Well, I'm going to give you, some of you aren't going to be here for that, so I'm going to give you a brief excerpt of what that show is going to sound like. I want the bitch, give me the bitch. I want the bitch, give me the bitch. Okay? Yeah, that's too bad, because, you know, it would have come in handy right about now. Green Magnet School. Yeah, I came up with them. Actually, they came up with me, see. You know,
we all worked together years ago.
We did indeed. One of the first shows they did here was at the open mic, which is now coming to its ignominious terminus. Hey, I like that. ignominious term. And say that in a prison next time you're in the drunk tank. Watch out. Get that butt plug out, because, man, they're going to say, well, what do we got here? A live one. Yeah. You know, because really, the way you talk to people, it makes all the difference in the world. I used to do the Kirkland Cafe, but one time I used the word metastasizing, so instead of cancerous, and so they decided I was a highbrow and didn't have any use for me after that.
That's not the first time you've been accused of that.
A highbrow? What's wrong with being a highbrow, huh? Okay, so my knuckles don't scrape the ground, so sue me. What do you want from me anyway? Oh,
Things
thinks
are over there. They're pretty close to heart. You think they're going to use it.
I know, reading a book. Thinks he's better than everybody else. Can't read Dick and Jane like everybody else. Has to read a book. What book is this? Well, this book doesn't even have pictures. You know, he doesn't even move his lips when he reads. You know, moving your lips when you read was a phenomenon right up until about the 19th century. People used to constantly move their lips when they read. In fact, Caesar was the first person not to move his lips when he read. That is Julius Caesar. And I hate to confuse him with Caesar Augustus. Gee, I was hoping I would milk more comedic gold out of the hood flying up. But what can you say? What can you say about a windshield that is irreparably shattered? Not just one little hairline crack, you know, like the kind you get when a rock hits your windshield. No, I remember what I was thinking when it flew up. It was like pretty, like a spider web, you know. Oh, guess I should put the blinkers on since I'm doing 85 in the high speed lane. And, you know, it's New Year's Eve traffic, and I'll bet you the guy who I passed when this happened was thinking, serves him right. You know, just once I'd like to see this happen to somebody else. It's happened to me twice already. I'd like to see this happen. It'd be interesting, you know, you're tooling along, you look over the high-speed lane, whoa! You know, it's like, whoa, hey, all right, this is better than the circus. Yeah, all right. And if you have your kids in the car, it's better still, you know. Gee, Mom, the museum is fun. The copper top tops them all. Yes. Well, it's an example of the old dictum: for the want of a nail, a shoe was lost. For the loss of a shoe, a horse was lost. For the loss of a horse, a kingdom was lost. My kingdom for a horse. Hey, thanks. I dig that. Save the owners on the electricity, the 15 cents worth of electricity per hour that it takes to light this stage. I love these lights too, you know. It's sort of like, this is sort of lighting they had circa 1920 in the cabarets in Germany, you know. Come to, and so, you know, the thing is, the whole thing started when I left the oil cap off the car after I changed the oil. And the reason I didn't open the hood to check whether the oil cap was on, because the latch to the hood was defective. And because the latch to the hood was defective, the car caught on fire, the insulation burned, the hood warped, had to be strapped down, and then all, you know, all this led to everything else. Just because I didn't put the oil cap back on, it probably cost me $800. So, like, keep that in mind. Oil cap equals $800.
Was that your car caught on fire?
Yeah, that was the day my car caught fire.
Wasn't that yesterday?
Yeah, the Rob children. Back before we had electric cars and cars were on helium and nuclear power, we had gasoline and diesel engines. And one day my car caught on fire. Well, maybe, then the hood got dented, yeah, before too long. Too bad I didn't have Bucky Dent in the car with me. It would have been strangely, eerily appropriate. Hold on just 1 minute. I'd like to read you from this list. It'll only take about 15 minutes. Now, our guests for today, oh, by the way, my name is Francis DiMenno, and our guests for today, the lovely Marguerite, my fiancée, is here, and Donna and Jeffrey Wine, and our two comedic guests, and the man in the black sunglasses with the baseball cap. Well, at least the baseball cap is not backwards, and your shirt is tucked in, and that's a very nice jacket, and it's not either red or blue, so we're not going to have some semi-automatic action later on. So that's cool. I like that. And you have really nice teeth. I can't pretend that I can see them from here, but they're all there. There's no prominent spaces between them. And I think you probably have pretty good healthy gum tone too. You know, take care of your teeth. It's very important. Because, you know, the first thing they look at after they look at your shoes is your teeth. And then they look at your arrest record. Oh, they're coming for me. Our guests for today are Al Wigder and Phil Berliner, and now I'd like to introduce our first guest, Mr. Al Wigder. The traditional comedian's handshake, signifying a sort of brotherhood of camaraderie and just plain backbiting, backstabbing envy that exists among comedians in general. The longer we shake hands, the more I am secure in the fact that I will not be stabbed in the back later on. Yes, it's that bodily contact that's all so important in the comedy world. Because, of course, you are constrained by society and its dictates from actually reaching out and literally touching your audience. And so, you have to do it in the way that I am cynically manipulating you now, by using a soft tone of voice more appropriate for addressing a puppy or an extremely small infant. And in that way, I massage your ego and at the same time insult you without your knowledge. Well, actually, our next guest, and perhaps the final Comedy on the Edge guest, at least until we move it across the street, which could be months or never. Well, I'm going to try, boss. And you know, boss spelled backwards is double S-O-B. So, just keep that in mind. And back in Pittsburgh, pal used to mean personal ass liquor, yeah. So you got to be careful when you call people these things. You want to get up here and say a word? No. Just one word. Money. No. Listen, you're going to buy all my possessions from me? Yeah. All right, then you're my friend.
All his possessions?
For now.
All?
Well, I'll get him for pennies on the dollars. How could he turn that down?
Who wants that much junk?
No, you know, I got really in the market for 500, $2 per hour.
Yep, 500 pounds.
You have to run a very big U-Haul for this.
Are you moving across the street because you don't have enough seating capacity here?
Well, actually, the seating capacity is more excellent across the street. It's a more intimate venue, and you might say
It's yet more intimate than this, Francis.
it's a little more on team than this environment, which of course is geared towards rock and roll. Not that I have anything against rock and roll, mind you. Not that I have anything against three chords and, you know, people with tattoos that say BAC .40 and blood alcohol content. See, all tattoos say BAC .40 because you always have a blood alcohol content of .40 when you get a tattoo, or nearly always, unless you're Roseanne Barr. Then you get Tom Arnold tattooed on your ass, but you have the money to change it to My New Bodyguard when the opportunity arises. Well, then our next guest, Mr. Phil Berliner, is now going to address us. Yes, let's give him a big hand. Short and to the point, Mr. Phil Berliner.
Great pronunciation, too.
Oh yeah, I'll say. Yeah, okay, I will. Yes. Well, let's see, can I do a Phil Berliner set here, just off the top of my head? No, I can't. See, because Phil is one of a kind, he is. And he's been one of our most consistent people, and of course, consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds, as Emerson so succinctly put it. But nonetheless, it is a praiseworthy. Here's John Kerry and Nita Sembrowicz. John, from an old and very distinguished British family, and Nita Sembrowicz from an old and very distinguished Polish family. England and Poland. Hey, yeah, that's how World War II started, isn't it? Well, we feel sorry for the Poles, so if the Germans start to push them around, let's declare war on them. Okay, you know, that was a brilliant idea. You know, if it weren't for the Poles resolutely and perhaps stubbornly and beyond all reason defending the Danzig corridor, World War II would have started years later, and the Germans might have had atomic capacity by then. So the Poles really saved the world. Not the first time that a Polish individual has been in a position of eminence, I might add. Well, I guess this is as good time as any to draw the curtain on Comedy on the Edge. Of course, there's still about 25 minutes left on the tape, so I'll think of something to put on it. But please stay in your seats and don't move because we're going to be bringing our special featured guest. And thanks for coming out.
The final act of the evening. We're so thankful that you came. We're really pleased. And we hope that you'll come next time. It's the first Saturday of every month. And now, please put your hands together for the wrong hero.
I would like to perform for your pleasure a pantomime. As the beloved entertainer Red Skelton once said,
I now hold the power of the cosmic cube. Captain America, you will be destroyed!
oh, I'm sorry, actually that was the Red Skull. Who said that, not Red Skelton. Anyway, I'd like to perform a pantomime. To set it up, I should tell you what the titles of the pantomimes are. I'm going to perform one right after the other. The first one is called Dance of the Broken Office Vending Machine. And during it, the boss will come up so you'll know what's going on. And the second one is called The Clandestine Xerox Copies on Office Equipment March. And again, the boss will come up during the middle of it. So here they are. Mr. Manny Solo. Mr. Manny Solo.
message from the wrong hero.
I figured as long as I am an insanely intelligent alien from outer space, I would give you some advice, which I will call visiting Earth, some do's and don'ts. It is wrong to refer to the Earth government as your sugar uncle when visiting Earth. On Earth, a gift of flowers is always appreciated. However, black denotes death. Pink is sexually suspect. Yellow means contempt. Purple implies tragedy. Red is cursed. And white implies that your host is suffering from a spell cast by gypsies and that his child has been kidnapped by elves and replaced with a changeling. So, rather than give flowers, it is better to give a head of broccoli or a hand grenade. And if you have special regard for your host, the hand grenade will still have the pin in it when you present it to them. Now, protocol for tipping waitresses and waiters. Waiters prefer to add a 100% tip to your bill before you've paid it, but they will gladly accept any loose change that you happen to have on you at the time that you pay your bill. Now, on Earth, you should avoid talking about politics or religion, or for that matter, any subject which fails to make your host feel superior to you. Now, on Earth, it is customary to give gifts with both hands. However, most people will accept your gifts even if you throw them at their heads. Now, when visiting Earth people, you will probably be offered a large cup full of a murky beverage. If it has big chunks of floating in it, then you'd better hope that it is coffee and not water, and drink it regardless of how nauseating it looks to you. Rest assured it will always be tepid and weak, no matter what it is, or what country you happen to be visiting. Now, one gift is always welcome, but two are better, and most people, although they would never admit it, would prefer 50 or 60 gifts, preferably in small denomination bills with non-consecutive serial numbers. Now, on Earth, it is impolite to sneeze and then say, "This is not intended as a gift, but merely as a small memento of my visit." On Earth, to motion a waiter for a check in a restaurant, make a writing gesture, or better yet, make a walking gesture as though you are heading out the door without paying the check in order to gain his immediate attention. Never say, "Wake up and smell the flowers" when communicating with the deceased ancestors of Earthmen. And never refer to Earth events as the swallowing of mites on a plum. Earthmen and women will appreciate your interest in their sports, art, foodstuffs, and natural wonders. Admiring their personality, however, gains their undying respect, and sucking up to them shamelessly earns their undying love. At least until the next charismatic and incredibly intelligent alien comes along to flatter them even more. Earthmen are very proud of their hydroelectric dams, rocket ships, and computers, even though, by our standards, these devices are laughably primitive, and even our smallest children have mastered integral calculus. Earthmen will give you their business card. I, the wrong hero, have a card specially prepared for the occasion when Earthmen feel the need to give you their card. I don't want to know you or have anything to do with you, but I'm giving you this card because you gave me yours, which I plan to make into a gigantic toxic waste bonfire and laugh around it, dance around it, laughing, naked, laughing at your foolishness and utter stupidity. I despise you, Earthman, for you are nothing more than a fool, and I am the wrong hero.
Hi, I'm the wrong hero. And you know, a lot of folks have been criticizing my pal, Lush Rambo, the noted radio talk show host. And I thought maybe it would be in the best interests of the fairness doctrine to use my show as an arena for Lush to say what's on his mind and give his own side of the story. So, without much further ado, here he is, Mr. Lush Rambo. Thank you, wrong hero. Now, I have my own television show on many cable stations, which is broadcast at 11:30 and sometimes 12:30, and which sometimes does better in the ratings than some of the big network shows. Plus, of course, I have my own radio show on over 600 stations, which is responsible for, that is to say, I reach over 20 million people a week. And so you would probably want to ask why I feel as though I should appear on this cable access network, which at best is only reaches 50,000 people, if that, and that's very generous because, of course, some of them will be saving up their energy to watch me later on in the evening. But since this is Cambridge, I thought I would take my case to defend myself, that is, to the intelligent, the smart people which watch this program, if in fact anybody watches this program. Now, a few things I wanted to take up during this time. Well, some people have asked me, Lush, why do you talk 40 words a minute? And well, one reason is that a lot of my audience is, of course, very well-educated folks who earn over $50,000 a year. But a certain percentage of my audience is, in fact, alcoholic World War II veterans who have trouble following someone who's talking very fast, like those pointy-headed liberals in Washington, D.C. And by talking at a pace of 40 words per minute, I enable them to do something else while at the same time listening to me, Lush Rambo. For example, if they are driving along in their cars in the high-speed lane doing 45 miles an hour and their blood pressure is very high because they wear those hats with the old-fashioned bow on the hatband, and it constricts their blood pressure in their heads. And anyway, by talking at a pace of approximately 40 words a minute, I give them the opportunity to reach into their glove compartments and get a nice little bottle of gin and maybe take a swig, and after their attention is fully directed to what I have to say, they haven't missed a thing in general. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to defend myself against some of my critics who have claimed that my commentaries, and that's all they are, folks, is commentaries and not directives passed on from high. My commentaries have been responsible for acts of terrorism and other assorted unpleasantries, which actually are the fault of my main competitor, Mr. Gordon Liddy. But in any event, some have referred to me as a lying bully. Now, when I next see my good friend Superman, I will, in fact, tell him the names of these people, and he will annihilate them with his Kryptonian superpowers. Now, some have said that I am, in fact, I carry some sort of disease or something, that is to say, the disease of intolerance, and
that I am directly responsible for the nastiness in American political discourse, but I do want all of you to remember that it's just like sports talk, really. It doesn't really have any bearing on anything which is, in fact, real. Because, as my good friend, the wrong hero, likes to say, politics is sports for people who are too fat to run. And of course, I am the living proof of this dictum. I just wonder if these people who criticize me for the types of humor which I use, I must say in my own defense, to create an atmosphere of levity when discussing these matters, political matters, that is, some of which are, in fact, in spite of what I've just said, very serious matters. If I use a certain degree of levity in order to make this type of commentary, for which I am justly famous, more palatable to the people who listen to my show 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, every week, which is about 750 hours a year. If I, in fact, do, it's actually 780 hours a year, but if, in fact, I do pound my message, and since I've been on the air for nearly 10 years, that's a cumulative of 7,800 hours of me, Lush Rambo. But nevertheless, those who would seek to characterize me as some sort of neurolinguistic programmer who merely teaches my acolytes how to parrot my beliefs instead of coming to their own reasonable political conclusions, those who say, that is to say, accuse me of being this type of indoctrinizationer, or however you want to put it, preacher or cult leader, those who make this accusation are, in fact, merely envious of me, Lush Rambo, because they do not have my audience or record of longevity. Now, some have said that I resort to ad hominem attacks. Basically, Molly Ivins, who is a writer for, let me see, who does she write for? Some Texas newspaper that doesn't even exist anymore. Who knows? Anyhow, she says that I resort to ad hominem attacks, but I would like to say that when I get my hands on Molly Ivins, I will most assuredly show her the error of her ways by, of course, smearing her personal character. Now, Molly, in her essay, which is to appear in a book called The Way Things Aren't, Rush Limbaugh's Reign of Error. Now, I have nothing to do with Rush Limbaugh, of course. My name is Lush Rambo, but in any event, she says in her essay that I consistently target dead people, little girls, and the homeless. Well, that is a difficult charge to refute, but the thing is, I have only attacked one little girl, and that has been, of course, our president's daughter. And as for dead people, well, they are not in a position to bring suit against me. Of course, if they were to bring suit against me, it wouldn't matter, because like Walter Winchell, another great man, my contract with my radio station includes legal representation as a part of my fee, so I don't have to particularly worry about libel or slander. And as for the idea that I consistently target the homeless. Well, of course, very few of these people are in a position of prominence, and they once had a spokesperson who I attacked in my show because of his consistent inaccuracies in claiming that there were over 5 million homeless, when in fact there weren't, although they wouldn't be such a bad thing if, in fact, more people did, in fact, choose to live on the streets instead of burdening people like me and forcing us to pay taxes because they are not able to support themselves. And folks, I just want to say that is, in fact, the gist of my message is that people should be able to take care of themselves. Now, say they weren't born in a circumstance which enables them to rely on their parents, like I had to, or say they actually had to go to war instead of getting out of fighting in the Vietnam War, as I was able to do, and say their fathers didn't in fact ever own a radio station for which their teenage son could work, such as my father did and for whom I worked. Well, that's just too bad. And anyway, getting back to this homeless issue, most homeless people aren't prominent enough to merit my commentary. And so, that's the phone. I'm going to have to go now. But I thank you for attending to my every word. I'm Lush Rambo, whatever. Good night.
Such a hard time just trying to get that situation rectified that it would be a long process. They would just be running the stop sign after stop sign. Yeah, if a person is turned down for credit and has not realized that he or she has bad credit and is turned down by a car company, a home mortgage financing company, I'm just trying to think, a credit card company, does that agency have to tell them why they're being turned down? They don't have to tell them why. They don't have to show them the report. And that's an unfortunate situation because the creditor is protecting their own confidentiality. The credit bureau is protecting their own confidentiality, but they're not protecting